or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what Libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. I'm so happy that so many of you have been joining us. Yes, the brand is strong. I got my daughter on this one. So yes, I've always got a cup of coffee in my hand. Absolutely. And I'm very lucky today. Thank you all for joining me. I have with me someone who is trying her best to rock and roll at a local level. Oh, I love that so much. Trying to improve her community and her state, running for Congress. The one, the only, Liz Terwilliger. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Larry?
I'm doing great. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes of your campaign day. For those of you who want more to know about Liz, head over to LizTerwilligerforcongress.org. The cool people have .org, by the way. I'm just saying that's how that works. Absolutely. So, Liz, you're running for Congress.
I am.
Why now and why Congress?
So last year when I ran, I said it was because I was a crazy person, but that's not the answer I'm supposed to give.
Gotcha.
So,
probably still accurate, though, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm supposed to say that after I get elected, I guess.
There we go.
So I got started. I've always been really interested in politics, and I always want to know the reasoning behind someone's argument. So during the first Trump impeachment, I was messaging my representative wanting to understand why he kept saying that it was an unconstitutional process. Mm-hmm. And I could not get an answer. All I could get was the party line and a form letter and an explanation of impeachment, which is really helpful to me. I like that when people explain things to me. So I got very upset. Sure. And my husband challenged me to do something about it or, be quiet. And I can't be quiet. So this is what I'm doing.
Okay, there we go. I like that.
And I feel like in this particular case, I want my representative to be representative. I want him to be responsive to me and to my neighbors, not just to me.
Right.
To me would be great though. And I want him to be engaged in the district and representing us. So that's why Congress.
I got it. I like that. So let me ask you focus on something, and that is you focus heavily on the idea of community. It's a big part of your campaign, a big part of, from what I understand, of who you are. It's a big part of who you are and a big part of your community. I mean, a big part of your campaign.
Right.
How do we, in today's world where everyone's talking about, macro stuff, we need the federal government to do this. The federal government's got to give us that. Joe Biden's got to do this. There's so much of that. How do you say, no, we can work on some of this locally in the community? How does that work?
Well, I like to start with what are the issues in the community and build from there. I get very upset. One of the reasons I'm a libertarian is because I don't want the government to be my parent. Yep. And I get very upset when that's the go-to. And so I feel like with our community solutions program, or whatever you want to call it, that movement that we're building, we're putting that libertarian philosophy of community solving problems into action. So people can see that we're not just talking about, we don't want government. We're talking about there's a way that we can help to solve these problems.
It's a great idea. I bring it up all the time that what most people don't understand is, and clearly you do, is when you add government, you by default remove community. It's just how it works. And then government begins to become the monopoly. And then when government becomes a monopoly, eventually it pushes community almost totally out. And we have a lot of communities in our country that they've been overrun by government trying to help them for so long that they've kind of lost the institutional knowledge on how to help themselves even. So when you begin to pull government away, if there's no one like you to assist them in building that community knowledge, many of them struggle.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that you get when you get government helping is you get whoever's in power in government helping from their
Yes.
perspective. So you don't have any consistency and you don't have any understanding of that community.
Right.
So the solution to homelessness in Bradford County, in my district, which is extremely rural, is very different from the solution maybe in Union County or someplace where there's a bigger population base.
Right.
And homelessness looks different in those counties. So if you just have government come in and say, we're going to solve this problem by doing this, it's one size doesn't fit all.
Right. Right. Oh, look, I live in New York City, biggest city in the country. And right. And our problems many times are unique to New York City and just don't work in other places. In fact, sometimes don't even work in other cities. Right. I mean, surely don't work in a rural area, but sometimes even a city that's not as large, right, doesn't have the same issues that we have. It's a very valid point, but I hadn't thought, like, I've always got the point that someone who's further away or not knowing, or one size doesn't fit all. I always got that, but you brought up something that really I hadn't really thought of, which is consistency.
Yeah.
And when you're in trouble, you want to be able to count on something or someone. And if it's, oh, now the Republicans are in charge, or now the Democrats are in charge, so now I don't get the thing that I expected, it's a big problem. I see what you're talking about. Let me grab a quick comment if I could.
Go right ahead.
Nellick says there's also a cultural shift in expecting others to solve problems instead of doing it yourself. How about that?
Absolutely. And that libertarian principle of individual responsibility is core to me and to who I am as a person. Taking personal responsibility and helping each other to be able to solve our own problems. Don't give me a fish, teach me how to fish.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But and there is, I think I've talked about this often, the difference between a local nonprofit and a local government run agency. The government run agency, its job is not to make you better. Its job is to service you. So if you're better, they don't service you anymore. So their incentive is not to make you better. The incentive is just make sure the service just keeps you good enough.
Yeah. And and we had a interesting conversation about this at our local Libertarian Party affiliate meeting recently, which is, if we're helping a local nonprofit to move away from government funding because we're shining a light on it in the community and helping them build their resources in the community, there is so much more they can do making individual choices with their freedom, with that money that they get from the community, that the government money comes with all these strings attached and all this bureaucracy, that if they can turn away from that money, okay, so some people will take both. Yes. But some organizations will turn away from that government money because they don't want to have to deal with all that red tape and the bureaucracy.
Absolutely. Tyler says, we're more reliant on others necessarily. You still need someone to teach the fishing, which is external, which is true. And this is the point that I'm glad you're bringing up. And the reason why I wanted to push the community piece is, this, most people who are not libertarian, who are on the outside, will always say, oh, you libertarians, when you say individual, you mean selfishness. And what you said, Liz, was not that. What you said is individuals helping other individuals that they care about in their community. And that's a very different message. You're saying people do need help. Tyler's saying people need help. We're not saying you shouldn't help people. We're saying it's better if the individual locally tries to help. Am I wrong here?
No, I think you're right. And the other thing is that it doesn't have to be the government that helps. So somebody needs to teach you how to fish. Continuing that example.
Yep.
But that doesn't have to be the government. And a lot of times we have come to a point where that's where we look. For some things, we might need the government, to protect our rights for,
Yep.
I'm not going to sit in judgment of somebody, whether they stole, whatever. But for a lot of things, we don't need the government. And where we don't need them, we should look to each other.
I love that. Joseph says, Liz is the hardest working member of the LPPA. I like that.
Thanks, Joe.
That's great. So let me walk down a different road, though. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, 25 different ways you could use this idea, so many different issues you'd want to work on. Can you give me like 3 of your top 3 issues that kind of float to the top for you?
So in terms of like issues for my campaign?
Sure.
Or thing, okay.
You pick.
Okay. I can pick.
Yeah.
So my campaign is really like the core of it is about transparency in government to increase engagement. I want people to care about what the government does because it affects them.
Right.
But I want the government to be responsive to the people. So the House of Representatives, our representatives, should be listening to the people in their district. But the people in the district should know what is being voted on. So I'm a big fan of single issue legislation.
Oh, yes.
Clear language, of concise legislation, and also of knowing what's being debated in committee, what's coming up for a vote, not telling your constituents how you voted on something now that the vote's over, but keeping them informed and engaged during the process, because that can inform your decision. I don't know everything. I don't have every perspective on any issue. So your perspective, like I grew up on a goat farm, but I am not currently a farmer. I have no idea. Agriculture has changed a lot in the last 30 years, I don't know what those issues are. So I need to be engaged with the people in my district in order to make intelligent decisions about how to vote on things. Because I'm not going to vote the way a party tells me to vote.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote to represent my district.
It's funny you bring up the transparency piece, because I used to tease somebody. I remember I was teasing people and I would say, hey, you know what we should do? I would say, we should write all of our laws in Russian. And the guy's like, what?
Well,
right. And that was my point. You read me perfectly, Liz. You went right down that road. I said, might as well. You can't read it now. He was like, well, I can't read the Russian. You can't read the laws now. You don't know what they say. You got to hire a lawyer to kind of tell you what it means. So you'd hire a Russian instead. But he would just hire somebody to tell you what the law means. You can't read them now. Your point's very valid.
Yeah, and they're killing me now with these legislative packages. I could rail against legislative packages for hours. But there are things in those packages that we can agree on that could get passed in a bipartisan manner. The police reform bill that went nowhere, the 2 of them. The Democrats had one that they knew the Republicans wouldn't agree to. The Republicans one they knew the Democrats wouldn't agree to. And so they both say, oh, look, we're doing something, and nothing gets done. Instead of voting on the individual things that are common ground in those packages and move forward, because we need to move forward.
But then they can't yell at the other person and blame them.
Right, because we need to play games.
We got to play games, right? If I actually had to like do something, then I couldn't just blame the other person. It's way easier to just say, it's because Liz won't let me. It's way easier to do that, right? Let's just blame her. It's much easier. But there was, I think it was it Herman Cain? I think it was Herman Cain who, when he was running for president back in 2016, he was talking about the idea of all legislation should be no more than 3 pages long. Now, I think that's an exaggeration, but I got his point, right? His point's similar to your point. It's like if it's so long and so insane, then it's impossible to vote on, impossible to read, right? 3 is probably too short. I mean, I think Justin Amash was talking about something like 10 pages or something like that.
20 would be,
20. There, look at that. We'll take 20
or whatever.
Yes, we'll take 20.
The other thing is, not only people need to be able to understand what's in it, but they need to know with these big packages, there's so much in it that if I want to talk to you about the infrastructure bill, like I have to know a lot more than just whether or not my roads need to be fixed to engage in that conversation. So people are kept out of the conversation by these big packages. So that's the other reason that I want clear, concise legislation so that people can be engaged and can share their thoughts, because we all have opinions about the potholes of Pennsylvania. But,
You brought up a really valid point, and I bring this up often when you look at us as Americans in general. When someone says something like, well, Larry, I don't understand your problem. It's online. You can just find this stuff online if you want. I get that all the time. And my point is the average American is so overwhelmed with the amount of data that's at their hands. We're just not ready for this. And we don't even know where to start. And then how much time can I have out of my day to read legislation? I mean, 800 pages? I mean, I guess I don't go to work anymore. I just read paper all day long and then have to then research what that meant. You're totally right. It makes it to a point where we're so worried or scared. We simply look to our red jersey or blue jersey, and we have that person tell me how I should think.
Right. Or the pundit on Fox or on NPR or whatever your media of choice is. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's not a good place for us to be. And if you make it simpler, I think to your point, right, there'll be certain bills that I may not care about. I mean, like, yeah, fine, whatever, that's fine. But there'll be certain bills that I do care about. And those I'm going to want to read. But if they're 800 pages long, I'm overwhelmed. And I go, forget it, whatever. I guess it's good because my guy on TV told me it's good. So I guess it's good. I think you're totally right.
And I completely respect your right to not care.
Absolutely.
If you don't care, I'm good with that. As long as you know what you're not caring about.
There we go. Completely right. Yes, 100%. And that's really an issue. Robert says, local people have local ideas, but for some reason, we can never get to talk to our representatives. They get in and disappear.
Amen.
And yes. And look, my congressional rep is AOC.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know that, but literally I have one of the most popular Congress people that represent me. And I'll give her credit all the time. When she was hustling for that seat, she busted her rump for that seat. Her team literally knocked on my door. I wasn't here when they did it. My wife was here. But her team literally knocked on my door. Like, they were doing what they had to do. They hustled. And to Robert's point, then she got the seat. And now I'm like, where is she? Huh? No one's knocking on my door anymore. Like, no one's knocking on my door anymore. I don't see her at all. It's very true. It's very true.
I was talking with this about this with someone the other day, actually, and how could you be accessible when you're doing the job? And I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Robbies from the western part of our state, but he has office hours as a vice chair for his region of the LPPA. So, why couldn't you have office hours, regular office hours, like a professor at a university or whatever, where they could be virtual? If I'm in DC, these hours, I'm going to be there. There's no format, no whatever. Just drop in virtually and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Be accessible. I know it's a busy job, but I don't feel like it should be that hard.
I remember, and I brought this up when I was running for governor of New York. I was still doing what I call the Gov Shack radio show. I do a radio show an hour or 2 hours every Monday night. And we would there we go. Yes, I just let people talk, and I got that, by the way. That wasn't my original idea. I got that when Giuliani was mayor of New York City. Giuliani used to do a Thursday morning, 10 to 11 radio show every Thursday morning. Right. And that's a city of 8 million people. And they would just call in. Yeah, Giuliani, my stop sign got knocked down on 4th Street. Okay, hold on. And literally he would write that in there. He would tell his guys who were there, go get the guys to fix it. Like, that kind of thing happened. And I thought, that's not bad. And then when Bloomberg took over, he thought it was good. He copied it. Yeah. So Bloomberg was like, this is a good idea. And Bloomberg's Democrat. He was like, well, I don't care, Republican or not. That's a good idea. I'm doing that. So I had a Republican and a Democrat both doing it. Then de Blasio took over and said, nah, peasants. Right. you peasants shouldn't be talking to me. I'm King de Blasio. I'm sorry. Cuomo was a king. He's like a baron or a lord or something, whatever. So he's a second tier nobility. That's what he is. But still, I totally agree. I think you can do it. I really think it's a good idea. And I think people, even if they don't actually talk to you, if they believe that they can, it makes you better in their eyes. Right.
And I have a pet peeve. I have a number of pet peeves with my current representative, but one of them is I get these wonderful emails from his team explaining an issue to me, telling me what I should think, and then asking me a fake survey question. Because in the first part, it tells you exactly what you should think, and then you're supposed to answer the question.
Right. Yes.
So that's not outreach. Like, I know, I don't know if he thinks that's outreach, but somebody on his team thinks that's outreach. And if I was going to do something like that, I feel like I would ask a question that genuinely gets a response on your perspective. I think I might know what your answer might be on the COVID shutdowns or whatever it might be, but I don't know for sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
Maybe everybody loves it. I doubt it.
Right. They don't. But I get your point.
Yeah.
Even in that, but you're right. Even in that, where I would be sure everyone doesn't love it, I still need to be open-minded enough to realize maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah. I reached out to a farm in my county where they're starting a grocery as part of their farm. My preconceived idea from talking to other people last year was that there's a lot of red tape with that. That's really a hassle. So when I reached out to them, I asked them, how's their experience been? What's been good? What's been bad? And they came back to me with, it's really been very easy and nothing has been bad. And I'm like,
wow,
that is not the answer I expected. But if I had told them what to think and asked them a 2-choice question, I would not have learned that.
Right. Absolutely. There we go. Well, Jeff says, sorry I'm late to the party. As a PA resident, I'm curious as to what she's running for and where. So could you just be more specific on that?
Sure. So I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives from Pennsylvania's 12th Congressional District. That's what it is right now. We're going to lose a seat in the House of Representatives.
I know the feeling.
So we're going to get redistricted most likely, hopefully before the election. Who knows? They went to court over redistricting last time. So who knows when it'll be done. But right now it's North Central. It's a 15 county district. It goes across the New York border from Susquehanna County over to Potter County. And then it pretty much follows the Susquehanna River all the way down to Perry County.
Wow.
So,
there we go.
Yeah. It's diverse.
So Nalika asked a question. She says, do representatives rely too much on technology, email and social media to be reached? That's a tough question, right? I mean, I get it. Good question. Thank you for the question, but it's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you need to have a balance. I make a real effort while in campaigning. Like I said, there's 15 counties. I'm making an effort to be out there in the district and letting people know where I am. But people are very tied to social media right now. It's really hard to reach people if you're not using social media.
Yeah.
To let people know where you are. So it's
100%.
hard to reach people who are not on social media. So we're always trying to get emails, trying to make personal contacts, but it's very difficult.
Absolutely. Speaking of that takes time, that takes money, that takes energy. So if you're in Pennsylvania, you want to help out Liz, then head on over to LizTerwilliger4Congress.org. I actually put the link for her donation in the actual description. Click on that and you can do a high five for her, which is $5. Yes, give her a high five. Support her with the high five. That's $5 a month to help her out. She's going to need things like door hangers. She's going to need signs, all those types of things. She's going to need Facebook ads. So if you want to support her, head on over there. Either go here, I'm showing you now, LizTerwilliger4Congress.org, or click the link to donate the high five donation. Look, I put it in the description. Click that link now. Throw her $5 a month so that she can get going and keep moving forward. But if you're saying, Larry, I don't have the cash, no worries. She also needs volunteers.
Absolutely.
She needs people to go do those sign waves, get out there and walk, knock doors with her, all that stuff in 15 counties. So if you can give some time, you got a little extra time, she could use that too. And Larry, I don't live in Pennsylvania. No worries. She needs social media warriors also. People to like, comment, share, make memes. The meme wars are real, guys. They're real. She needs all those things. So help her out. LizTerwilliger4Congress.org, or just click the link that's in the description so that we can move forward. All right. So you gave me, I'm sorry, go ahead, Liz. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, I was thinking about that comment about using technology, and it kind of led my brain to the media blackout that we have of third parties. And I've been lucky that I've gotten some good coverage in my local paper, but I think it's because I'm local. But as a candidate, it's really hard to get your voice out there into the media.
Yes.
So I got disinvited last year from several candidate forums towards the end of the election, which is really frustrating.
Yeah.
But so getting your voice out there.
Cash.
Oh, yeah.
So let me go to the next one if I can. You said your top one was transparency, and I get it, and I'm in. Is there another issue that's up there close to that?
So transparency and engagement are kind of paired together. So I'm always working to get more engagement, and more voices, different people's voices heard in the conversation, because I think we have a very split community right now, and very red and blue. And there's a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
there's a lot of purple people that are not heard.
Yep.
And there are a lot of us who are red on some issues and blue on other issues.
Sure.
And I was talking to my husband yesterday about why do you want to have a conversation about something where you can't solve the problem? But I want to learn other people's points of view. So I might not agree with you, but if I want to understand where you're coming from, because I think that's important. And I feel like everybody needs to be heard and make their case for their perspective. So
I feel like so many people are seeing us as going hard left and hard right. That's how they feel. Right? If you lean left, you think the right is crazy hard right, and if you lean left, if you lean right, you think the left is crazy hard left. Right? Whichever way you lean, you think the other people are totally nuts and crazy. And my view has always been there are total nuts and crazy people in every party. That's accurate.
Yes,
right?
sir. We have our own.
We have ours too, 100%. That we exist. But I feel like they're louder, and that the average American really isn't that radical either way. That's what I feel. Do you think I'm off on this?
No, I agree. And you know, I heard Justin Amash say something the other day that I 100% agree with, that libertarian principles are American values. We have mainstream American values, and people are so far in the red or far in the blue that they're not listening unless we can have that open conversation. And when I can talk to people about a specific issue, or just in general about libertarian principles, a lot of times we find that, they agree that civil liberties are important, that the Constitution is important, that, and so on and so on.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why so many veterans come to us afterwards, right? I'm a veteran myself. And I think most veterans, I mean, there's exceptions, obviously, but most veterans, when you join the military, you're doing it because you believe in your heart that you are defending life, liberty, and you're defending America and American values. And then often you get disenchanted when you realize that's not really what you're doing. And you get disenchanted and you leave. And when you leave the military, you're like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to do that. But then libertarians go, you don't have to fight in another country. You can actually fight here without being violent too. And you can still deal with fighting for liberty and the American values. You can do it here. And I think it's why some of our most popular and aggressive activists, many of them are veterans. Yeah,
I agree. I have some great veterans involved in my campaign. Absolutely.
So I think that's a good deal. So inclusion, right? So that inclusion is a second piece. Transparency, engagement, inclusion. Right. Is there a third?
Well, I mean, I could go on just to, jump off of that train. So some libertarians are passionate about one thing or another thing or whatever. There are small government, no government libertarians. I'm not a no government libertarian, but I'm extremely passionate about civil rights and civil liberties. And I have interesting conversations with people when I tell them that I believe in equal rights for absolutely everyone. And they will come back to me with, I agree with you, except, and I'm like, well, no, you don't agree with me.
Yes. Except with these people that I hate. Except for them. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, look,
except for those people in prison or, whatever. Yeah.
If you're someone who's watching this now and you're saying, I'm agreeing with Liz, then help Liz out. Head on over to LizTerwilligerforcongress.org or click the link that I put in the description. Throw her a couple of bucks. Give her a high five. $5 a month. A bunch of people do it. Now she's got a campaign that can make some impact, get something done, move forward even further than she's moving now. She's already hustling. She gets to hustle more with cash. Cash just helps. That's how it works. If you say, Larry, I don't have the cash, no worries. She also needs volunteers. She can't do this with just herself and a couple people who are supporting her. She needs herself, a couple people who are supporting her, and a whole lot more people to support her. She needs all of them together to move this thing forward. So if you're in the Pennsylvania area, why aren't you going to at least help her out, right? Click on our website, volunteer, say, hey, I'm in. What do I got to do? I'll be there. I got to show up at a sign wave. I got to knock on some doors with you. I'm in. Or if you're not in Pennsylvania, can't you at least do some Facebooking for her? Can't you do some Instagramming, some tweeting? Can't you do some of that? Some liking, commenting, and sharing? I think you can. If we do that, we can move this forward. So speaking of impact, Liz, how can you make impact? This is tough. I mean, this is not an easy run for any of us. All of us who run as libertarians, we know it's tough. We know that it's a deck stacked against us. We know it's tough. How do you make impact?
So my community solutions movement is a big part of that. So being able to make a difference in the district, in the communities is important. Putting pressure on our current representative to be engaged and to interact with people in the district is important. And informing people about what's happening and about what a libertarian is and that there's more choices is important. I have to say, I get really annoyed when people say that they're running to educate people. I'm not doing that. I'm running to win. So if you want to support somebody who's running to win, you should support me.
There we go. I love that.
However, along the way, we are educating people.
Well, you've hit it perfectly, right? I don't want education to be the end.
Right.
That's the means to get to the end.
Right.
Right. The end game's still to win. If we educate on the way, I'm with you 100%. Absolutely. So Nalik says a huge majority of her fan base are veterans. I agree. I think that's very much true. Sonia says she'll help if you're up by the New York border. She's like, if you stop by McKean or Potter County, I'll swing by. So you can get people from out of state.
Sonia, I'm going to be in Tioga County on Saturday at the Hills Creek Endurance Challenge. So if you want to stop over there, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump next door to Potter County.
There we go. Absolutely. So right now you can see that a lot of people want to make change locally. Absolutely. So do you have, I guess, in your own mind, do you have another victory? In other words, if something, in other words, I know you care about your community. Is this kind of a secondary victory for you?
So what would be wonderful would be if we had a representative in the district that cared about representing the people more than about representing the party.
Gotcha.
That would be a win. I would support someone who was going to be representative of the people, because I don't feel like we have that right now.
Got it. That's a great goal. I love that. That's amazing. That's a great win. I think you're right. Absolutely. Ryan says the community solutions plays a great role in your monthly day of service. Ooh, Tell me about the monthly day of service.
Monthly day of service keeps me incredibly busy. So, so it started out as an idea in the fall where we wanted to do something to make a difference in the holiday season. And it has turned into this. Every month we're doing we call it a day of service, but it's more than that. So the one that's running right now is the Firehouse Foot Gear Challenge. So a lot of our fire departments lost their fundraising opportunities because of COVID.
Oh, so sure.
We partnered with a nonprofit that, I think they're a nonprofit. Anyway, we partnered with an organization that we're doing a shoe drive. They pay for the shoes by the pound.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're partnering with the fire departments throughout the district. They're going to collect the shoes at their firehouse. We're going to collect them all up and take care of the logistics of getting them to the organization. And then whatever shoes they collect, they're going to get the money for. Each of those departments will get the money for the shoes they collect.
Oh,
so it's
that's
like
kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like $10 for every 25 pairs of shoes they collect. So
that's great. So people just give their old shoes away.
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. That's a good idea. Look at that. You're rocking and rolling. I love that. So amazing. So let me ask you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, tell me.
I was going to say last month we did a hygiene drive, and we had businesses throughout the district. Well, the counties that participated, we had businesses have boxes and people donated hygiene items and personal care items.
Oh, okay.
In Lycoming and Clinton County, they donated those items to the YWCA for their homeless programs. For Bradford and Tioga County, we had a pop-up hygiene pantry where we gave stuff away to people in the community. So the community donated and we gave it to the community. So
Look at that. This is what we're talking about, right? Actually taking action, helping people out. It's amazing. So Liz, before we wrap this up, is there anything that I missed that you might want to talk about, that you might want to say that I somehow didn't cover?
So I don't know if you know, but we're planning I don't know what to call it. It's not really a policy forum. We're just playing around with what to call it. It's Perspectives on Freedom is the name of it, and it's an American Values Forum for the fall. We're planning it for September. So far, we have Spike Cohen. Hopefully, we'll have Larry Sharp coming.
That guy's a jerk. You don't want him.
The idea is we're going to have breakout sessions on different topics and have people talk about things from all different perspectives, and it kind of present what the libertarian perspective is on things, but also listen to the community. So then I can learn about people's ideas on things, and we can share information and teach people about the libertarian perspective, that we're not all crazy people.
I love that. Only some of us are. I love it. That's amazing. That's so good. Liz, I want to say thank you so much for coming aboard. Everyone else, please remember Liz Terwilliger for Congress.org to check her out. Guys, thank you so much for giving me the time. Liz, thank you for coming. I will see you all